Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another edition of the Metropolitan Report. I am Alfred Parsar Jr. And before we begin tonight's report, just want to remind everybody go down below, follow us on all the pages, all the socials. We are on YouTube, Metropolitan Report Podcast. We're also on Instagram, _Metropolitan_Report. And then we are on X, Mets_Report_pod. And then on Facebook, at Metropolitan Report. I do apologize for my voice. I went to all three games of the Subway Series in Citi Field this weekend. I went Friday, yesterday, and today, so my voice is a little worn out. But Mets at a homestand, and I overall went to four games this weekend. I went to that the first game of the homestand where the Mets played the Tigers on Tuesday. So we're going to talk about the entire homestand. I thank everybody for being here late with us. It's 9 p.m. Eastern time. Well, 9:01 p.m. Eastern time now, actually, here in New York City. If you're a Mets fan, you've got to be feeling some type of happy about what the Mets did on this homestand. The Mets had 6 games in the homestand. They won 5-1, swept Detroit 3-0, and then went ahead and defeated the Yankees 2 out of 3 games, which is no easy task. I mean, the Yankees are scuffling right now, losing 7 of their last 9. But I mean, hey, it is what it is. So their struggles have nothing to do with playing us. We just play the schedule we're given, whether they're hot or not at the time of that they come on the calendar. Doesn't really matter. So the Mets taking care of business, and we're going to talk about everything. So, again, if you're a Mets fan, you've got to be feeling some type of good. Coming into this week or into this homestand, the Mets were 10 games under 500. They've taken care of business, and now the Mets 6 games under 500. So they've gained 4 games in the standings. So kudos to the Mets for doing what they had to do this week at Citi Field. So, the Mets offense has been alive. Listen, whether it's been timely hits from Mark Vientos, Brett Beatty has contributed, Juan Soto has contributed, AJ Ewing had a great Detroit series. He contributed in the homestand, maybe not in the Subway Series much, but Detroit series. Carson Bench had a couple of good plays. So, I mean, again, the Mets taking care of business. We look at the NL East standings as of right now. Again, it's 9:03 p.m. Eastern time. Everybody has played minus the Sunday night baseball game that's going on right now, but the Braves have already played. The Braves lead the NL East. They're 32-15, followed by the Phillies at 24-23. The Nationals at 23-24, the Marlins at 21-26, and the Mets at 20-26. And again, the Mets in their last 10 games, they're coming around. Last 10 games, they're 6-4. So anytime you have more wins than losses, that's always a good thing. And like I said, the Mets came into this homestand 10 games under, and now they've cut it to 6 games under. So very good baseball played this week by the Mets, and against 2 teams that, one team wasn't a slouch when the season first began in Detroit, and then the Yankees, perennial playoff contender every single year. And we'll get more to you Yankee fans in a bit. But the Tigers now, ever since Tarek Skubal got hurt, 20-27. The Yankees that they just played, they're now 28-19, losing 2 of 3. They've lost 7 of the last 9, 3-7 in the last 10. And again, we'll address all the Yankee fans, because you guys, when you lose, you don't know how to handle it. Before the Subway Series, the amount of chatter from you guys was astronomical, and then you change your energy, change course. You change course, and you got to be put in your place. But we'll do that at the end. Let's get to the comments. I see a couple guys in the comments here. What about Alfred? My good friend Drew learned, ladies and gentlemen. Drew, always a loyal supporter of the Metropolitan Report. My favorite guy. He says, finally, the Mets are kind of okay. How was the atmosphere today at the game? Well, I'll tell you. I'll skip ahead because I know we're covering the whole week. But the atmosphere, the entire weekend was crazy. A little bit volatile at times. There were the stadium was divided. Half Met fans, half Yankee fans. The Yankee fans came in like they owned the place. Chanted obscenities at Juan Soto. Told every Met fan they saw wearing Mets gear that the Mets suck. So I mean, hey, but then the atmosphere once the Mets came up on board, Drew. Yankee fans started deflecting. It went from we're gonna beat you guys and you guys suck to we have 27 rings. I mean, what does your 27 rings have to do with this weekend? I don't know. But again, like I said, I'm gonna save that for the end of the program because somebody's got to put them in their place, and I volunteer to do it. So that's that. But a lot of ignorance, toward the Met fans from the Yankee contingent that tried to commandeer Citi Field, if you will. All right, Shaw Money 360 says one team will be playing in October and one won't. I mean, hey, even if listen, I'll put it like this: if the Mets don't make the playoffs, which again, it's only been 46 games, there's 116 games left. Anything can happen in 116 games. But I mean, hey, why are we not focusing on this weekend? I don't care what happens. I don't care what happens in October. We're in May. I could care less about 5 months from now. I want to talk about this weekend. That's what we're talking about. So that's that. But yeah, so like I said, if you're a Met fan, you got to be feeling good. So we'll start off with the Detroit series. Of course, the highlight of the week was AJ Ewing being called up. AJ Ewing, this kid. I said it on the program on Monday when the Mets had their off day. AJ Ewing is a guy. He's gonna get you contact. He's a very fast guy. And AJ Ewing, his first game, he drew 3 walks, and he had a triple as his first career hit, all in the same game. 2 RBIs. One was he had an RBI on the triple, and then he had an RBI on a bases loaded walk. And you know what? Dare I say, AJ Ewing was the spark plug, the energy, if you will. I mean, this team has had a different feel, an infectious feel, since he's been around. The kid has a high energy. The kid can play, and I'm very impressed with what AJ Ewing has done so far in his tenure in Queens. You look at AJ Ewing's numbers here. We didn't get a graphic made for AJ Ewing, but I'll read off his numbers so far this season. Limited sample size, 17 at bats, but batting .294. He's had a home run, 3 RBIs, 2 stolen bases, OPS of 1.088. So, yeah, AJ Ewing paying dividends. He's walked more than he struck out 5 times, walked 7. So, AJ Ewing. Yeah, AJ Ewing. I mean, I know it's unrealistic to expect him to continue to produce these type of numbers given the course of a season, especially if he stays up up in the big league club from now to the end of the year. But yeah, from what I've seen from him so far in the small sample size, I'm thoroughly pleased with his output. And again, it may not have any correlation, and I could be wrong, but this was kind of a desperation move to call him up. And things weren't working. The Mets called him up. And again, the energy around the team has just been different. The Mets, I'll put it this way. The Mets, each of these 5 wins in the homestand where they went 5-1 have all been come from behind wins. They've all been come from behind wins. And I'm going to pull up the schedule log here in a bit. Let's see. So we look back to Tuesday here. Let's see. We're pulling up here their schedule. So the Mets, the first game against the Tigers, they went down 3-0 to Detroit early. Freddie Peralta gave up that Dylan Dingler home run. And yeah, Mets ended up winning 10-2. They came back. I'm looking at the box score now. Yep. Actually, no, they were down 2-0, came back all the way. They won 10-2. They were down early and they fought back. Usually so far this season, when the Mets go down early, they have like a lack of energy about they have a lack of energy to them. And I've seen it all season so far. The Mets would go down one, the Mets would go down two, and all of a sudden, you would have thought from the energy and the body language that you would have thought from the energy and the body language that it was an insurmountable lead. But that wasn't that's no longer the attitude. Then you look at Wednesday's game against the Tigers. Once again, the Mets down in the first inning, 2-0. They come back, win the game 3-2. Then you look at Thursday's game, same thing, down 3-0. Nolan McLean gives up another Dylan Dingler home run. Another Dylan Dingler home run. And they somehow have the wherewithal to come back in that game. So the Mets are simply not letting early deficits take them out of games mentally. They ended up winning Thursday 9-4. They were down 3-0 after the first inning. Didn't let that dissuade them whatsoever. Then moving on, Subway Series. They did lose Friday's game, and we're going to talk about the impact of what happened on Friday. Clay Holmes being injured, leaving that game. But then we go to yesterday's game, the Saturday game. The Mets, once again, after the second inning, they were down 1-0. They come back to win 6-3. And then today, down 6-3 to the Yankees. 2 on, 2 out, down to the last out. And out of all people, Tyrone Taylor walks up to the plate, ties the game up. Now, I'm going to admit, I've never had the most confidence in Tyrone Taylor. I've always said that Tyrone Taylor was only here because he's a David Stearns guy. Tyrone Taylor has only played for one other organization other than the Mets. That was the Milwaukee Brewers. David Stearns picked him. David Stearns had a hand in his development. He's a Stearns guy. That's why he's here. Because Stearns knows him. Stearns feels he's reliable, and he's a defense guy who you can get for cheap. That's all it is. He's a defense guy that Stearns, and he's the type of Tyrone Taylor is the type of prototypical player that David Stearns likes. He's the I'll get him for cheap. I know he can play defense. And if he works out, he works out. If he doesn't, he doesn't. And if he doesn't work out, we can let him go and it won't cost us much. But again, he's a Stearns guy through and through. So he gets an opportunity. And I'll be honest, because he pinch hit for MJ Melendez in the sixth inning. And at the time I said, what are you doing? You pulled a 250 hitter for a 189 hitter? At the time, it didn't make sense. And sports, and not just baseball, but whether it's basketball, football, hockey, there is, and I will admit, because I'm not some delusional idiot, there's different levels of luck involved in certain moments. We've seen it. Buzzer beating shots, game winning touchdowns with 2 seconds left on the clock. uh, golden goals in soccer. We've seen it. We've seen it all. So there, like I said, there is a dimension of luck sprinkled in to what happened today. I'm not gonna pretend to lie to you because out of any Met on the roster, you look up and down the active roster and you had to pick one Met to tie the game up with 2 on and 2 out down to the last out. Who are you gonna pick? Definitely wouldn't be Tyrone Taylor. Tyrone Taylor wouldn't be my first, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, or seventh option, not even 10th. But he walks up to the plate, first pitch swinging against David Bednar. And I initially thought that ball was going to curve foul. It stayed fair. And there you go. And all of a sudden, all the Yankee fans who were chirping and, acting like they owned Citi Field, suddenly they sat down and they were quiet, had nothing to say. Now, granted, the Mets didn't walk off in the ninth. So the Yankee fans thought they had a chance. Top of the 10th. They don't score the ghost runner. The Manfred man, as I call it, because Rob Manfred put that rule in, the MLB commissioner. But the Manfred man didn't score in the top, but he came around at home in the bottom of the 10th for the Mets to win it and walk it off. So there's a dimension of luck here, but still playing great baseball. The offense is alive. The offense has been alive in this homestand. If you look at the Mets' schedule here from this homestand, and usually we're used to the Mets scoring 1 run, 2 runs, 1 run, 1 run, 2 runs, no runs. But they scored 10 runs on Tuesday, 3 runs on Wednesday. 3 runs is low, but they still won the game. 9 runs on Thursday, only 2 on Friday, 6 runs yesterday, 7 runs today, and win 5 out of the 6 games. Again, the pitching has been on point. Granted, Freddie Peralta is still 5 inning Freddie. He had 2 starts this week. Tuesday he went 6 innings. Today he goes 5. He did start the 6th inning, but couldn't make it out. Didn't have an out when he left, so he only gets credited with 5 innings. And it's crazy to me how the Mets could be so bad in April and early May. And in this one homestand now, like I said, I'm not claiming that the Mets are going to go on a World Series run. I don't even know if they'll make the playoffs. But you had to have liked what you've seen. You had to have liked what you've seen out of this ball club this week. And like I said, it hasn't been just one guy. In baseball, it'll never just be one guy. But now the team is starting to click. Now the team is playing up to the sum of its parts. And you know what? I'm gonna go back on something here. Gonna go back on something here that I said on this program not that long ago. I remember I made a video, and the video is still here. The video is still here about Devin Williams. And I said that I didn't want Devin Williams to be the closer anymore. I can admit it. I said it. And if we look at the time that I released that video about Devin Williams and how I didn't say I wanted him off the team. I just said, just don't put him in high leverage situations again. I made that video on April 25th. That video was released. If you're watching this on Twitch or you're watching this on Facebook, go over to the Metropolitan Report YouTube channel. Subscribe, by the way. And you can scroll down. April 25th, a couple weeks ago, I said I didn't want Devin Williams in high leverage situations. However, Devin Williams must have heard what I said. He must have, I don't know, taken offense to what I said, or probably heard something similar from somebody else. But this, and we'll pull up the graphic. This is what Devin Williams has done since I said on April 25th to get the man out of high leverage situations. He's pitched in 8 2/3 innings since then. Has only allowed 1 hit. Hasn't allowed any runs. Only 2 walks. He struck out 11. 4 saves in 4 opportunities. So no blown saves in that time period. With a 2-0 record and no ERA. This is the same Devin Williams who, when the Mets signed him in the offseason to be the closer after, right before Edwin Diaz left, I said it. I said, I hope he's the setup man and not the closer. Then Edwin Diaz leaves. Devin Williams is now confirmed to be the closer. And we see what Devin Williams did up until April 21st. Blown save here, human pinata, getting bashed around there. Again, since April 26th, 8 2/3 innings. Only 1 hit allowed, and it was a single. Granted, I still get nervous when Devin Williams enters games, but he seemed to have settled down. Now, we know what happened to him when he played in the Bronx last year. When he was a Met, he lost the closing job to Luke Weaver. They went closer by committee at one point. But I don't know, since April 26th, Devin Williams has been solid. And I can admit that maybe I jumped the gun too early. Maybe it was just early season yips, early season jitters. But since April 26th, Devin Williams, 8 2/3, no runs. And look at that strikeout to walk ratio, 11 Ks to 2 walks. Devin Williams, he's locked in. He's locking in. And he's starting to look like the Devin Williams of old, the Milwaukee Devin Williams prior to the Pete Alonso homer in the 2024 NL wildcard round. I mean, it's too, I don't want to jump too early and say Devin Williams is back to that form. But since then, Devin Williams, I can't really criticize him. 2 walks to 11 strikeouts, and he pitched back-to-back days. So Devin Williams, phenomenal job out of the bullpen in high leverage situations as of late. On the year, with his updated numbers, Devin Williams in 18 appearances, 3-1 win-loss record. ERA going into this weekend was over 6. He's got it down to 4.60, 24 strikeouts and 15 2/3. But his recent output since April 26th, since I made the day after I made that video calling for him to be removed as the closer, he's been phenomenal. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 appearances in that stretch. Granted, look at the teams he went up against. Colorado, Washington, the Angels, Colorado 2 more times, Arizona, Detroit, and the Yankees twice in back-to-back days. But yeah, Devin Williams, I there's nothing that I can say that's there's nothing that I can say that bad about Devin Williams right now. And I hope that this continues. I hope that Devin Williams is consistent in this run. And that's the type of closer or high leverage arm that you want out of your bullpen. Has only allowed 1 hit in his last 9 appearances. I am beyond satisfied with that output. Devin Williams, even his body language and his energy. I can't really criticize it. It's like a whole 180. Early in the season, Devin Williams, he looked nervous. He looked uncomfortable. But these last few appearances, he looks poised. He doesn't look scared when he when he's about to make a pitch in a high leverage situation. Remember last month when he went up against the Dodgers, man, oh man, Devin Williams looked like he was about to fold in the pressure cooker. Looked like he was on the verge of a nervous or a mental breakdown. But he's had ice in his veins lately, and I don't know if because the weather got warmer in Queens because it was hot today. It was warm yesterday. He didn't pitch Friday. Friday night was cold, but I don't know what's gotten into him. I don't know what's gotten into Devin Williams, but whatever adjustment that he's made, um, I whatever he's doing, keep doing it because it's clearly working. And I don't know if the Mets have taken him to the side and try to give him some more words of encouragement. I don't know if he's changed his routine, his warm up routine, or even his off day routine. So, but whatever he's doing, it's clearly working. And like I said, Devin Williams, I'm not a believer just yet, but I'm going to tone down the Devin Williams criticism for now, just because he's on a redemption arc. He's redeeming himself. And again, Devin Williams, I can't say any bad things about Devin Williams. Like I said, the body language is there, the energy is there, the confidence is there, the poise is there. He pitched today and with the game on the line against the Yankees, and and took care of business. Yankees are not a slouch team. Granted, they play in the American League, which has its own set of problems, which we'll talk about later on in the program. But in a lineup with Ben Rice, Aaron Judge, Trent Grisham, Jazz Chisholm, Paul Goldschmidt, and he was able to keep himself composed 2 nights in a row. Mind you, Ben Rice went yard twice in this series. Devin Williams wasn't scared. So Devin Williams for now. If I had anything to say about it, if I was the manager, I'd keep going to him in high leverage situations and ride the hot hand until that hand cools off. Going back to the comments here. Drew Learn says, Alfred, I know earlier in the season we said the Mets rushed Carson Benj and he would be sent down once Soto came back. Has my opinion changed since then, now that he's been playing well? Drew, I'm going to tell you honestly, and I'll leave the question up. I'm going to tell you honestly, yes, my opinion on Carson Benj has indeed changed. And one thing about doing this show live, you never know what questions you're going to get. Great question, Drew. Let me pull up Carson Benj's numbers here. Carson Benj, after the conclusion of today's game, his season numbers stand at a 243 average, 3 home runs, 14 RBIs, 8 stolen bases, .648 OPS. Back when I said that they rushed Carson Benj, he was hitting below 200. So I was only going by what we were seeing at the time, but he's raised his average of 243. I remember saying, and I'm gonna date myself here. Let me go scroll through the YouTube archives just to see what date I said. I know it was opening day. It was in a video titled "Carson Benj will be tops amongst rookies this season." I released that the morning of opening day on March 26th, and I vividly remember saying, I can see Carson Benj hitting 250 for the season. He's at 243. He's 7 points off of where I predict he'll finish this season. He's looking good. Now, granted, he's made a couple of defensive flubs lately. In yesterday's game, he should have had a catch, bounced off his glove. It happens. It's baseball. They're all human. They could probably catch in the outfield much better than any of us talking about them can. But Carson Benj, he's young. Growing pains will happen. This is his first major league season. He's a rookie. But like I said, in that video on March 26th, the morning of opening day, I predicted that he would hit 250 or better. He's at 243 right now. And I believe he's hitting over 400 in his last couple of games. Let's take a look. 1 hit today, 3 hits yesterday. 2 hits on Thursday, 3 hits on Wednesday, 2 hits on Tuesday, 1 hit last Sunday. So he's hitting. Carson Bench, his average for the month, he went into May with a 181 average and has gone to 243. For the month of May, the Mets have played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 games, and he's hitting 333 in his last 15 games. He's hitting 333 with an on-base percentage of 390. So, yeah, Carson Bench is doing his thing. He's taking care of business, and he's on a hot streak. So batting, like I said, you got guys in the Hall of Fame who hit 300 for their career, and they're in. This is a game where you only got to be successful 30% of the time, and Carson Bench there, 333 average in the month of May. Now the Mets are going to go on the road tomorrow, so we'll see what happens. But Carson Bench, and he's hitting everybody, righties, lefties. It doesn't matter what hand you pitch with, Carson's going to hit you. So to answer your question, Drew, yes, my opinion has changed. Carson Bench, if he could keep this up and stay around or close to batting 250, I have no issue with him being up here. Drew Learn says, make sure everyone watching subscribes to the Metropolitan Report so I can hit 300 subs. Appreciate you, Drew. Greatly appreciate you and your support and everybody's support. Prell says the Yankees should be ashamed of themselves. I'm going to get to that in a couple of minutes. Drew Learn says he had a baseball game when he left the live stream last week. He was down 3-2 in the bottom of the sixth. He was up with 2 outs, runners on second and third. Got a walk-off. Look at you, Drew. Hopefully we see you in the majors one day. Might cover you on this show. Drew says the Mets are like, we got all the Yankee studs. Soto, Weaver, Holmes, Williams. Then the Yankees want to take someone from us, so they take Paul Blackburn. I thank the Yankees every day that he's gone. Well, Drew, you wasn't watching this show a year ago, but I used to refer to Paul Blackburn as Paul Wackburn. Michael Warshaw says Weaver's confidence rubbing off on Williams, and hey, it very well could be. Luke Weaver, historically, last year and this year, has always pitched better than Devin Williams in high leverage situations. And Luke Weaver, speaking of Luke Weaver, it's great that you brought Luke Weaver up. Luke Weaver on Saturday entered the game in a bases loaded situation. Yankees had nobody out, didn't score, and Luke Weaver was the pitcher that came in to relieve Brooks Raley. So Weaver, a guy who was a Yankee a year ago, used to pitching in the bright lights in New York, even though Citi Field, is not Yankee Stadium. We're a better stadium, amenities wise, food wise, and we're cleaner. But that's a different point for a different day. But yeah, Luke Weaver came into that situation, and Luke Weaver, danced with the devil and left unscathed, as I like to call it. So Luke Weaver on point. Luke Weaver on point with his high leverage situations as well. If the Mets ever decided they wanted to go close by committee, I'd be okay with that because Williams has been locked down. Weaver's been locked down as late too, but that could be true because Weaver started being consistent in high leverage situations before Williams did. So maybe the confidence does rub off, Michael. And my good friend Elliot Nicodemi, I went with him to game 2 yesterday. Shout out to him and my other good friend Michelle. He says, "Hey Al, I appreciate you stopping by on the program." Somebody else that I want to highlight. Is for particularly in the Subway Series. And if there's any Yankee fans watching, y'all about to get upset because y'all hate this man. But Juan Soto, here's what Juan Soto did in the Subway Series against the Yankees. 10 at-bats, a 400 average. He hit a homer on Friday night. He walked 3 times. He stole 3 bases. Now, granted, these are not eye-popping numbers. These are not, oh, snap, Soto's killing the Yankees. But at the same time, again, anytime somebody hits 300, we'll take it. Soto hit 400, had the homer run, even though the game was decided Friday night, but he walked 3 times in the series. He stole 3 bases. Those are the things that are not impressive to a casual baseball fan. He's not hitting the ball over the wall, but to get on base and then steal bases after the fact, that's impressive. It's the little things like that. It's the little things like that that drive in wins. Because there was at one point, there were runners on first and third on Saturday. Soto stole a base and got to second. That means, what does that mean? Now, if the batter were to ground out, which he did not, there's no chance of a double play to end the inning. So it's things like that, drawing walks, just getting on base. Me personally, I don't care how a guy gets on base. You can get hit by a pitch, you could draw a walk, you get a single. I mean, obviously, a home run and a single are two different things, but getting on base gives the person behind you or somebody else later in the batting order a chance to bring you home. So Juan Soto doing all the little things, and again, 4 hits and 10 at bats. He had more. Now again, he had 3 walks, so truly 13 at bats. But for those of you who are not familiar with how baseball is scored, walks don't count against your at bats. So 13 plate appearances, 3 of them were walks, 4 were hits. So Juan Soto, only 1 RBI in the series, but again, he's batting at the top of the order. He has Bo Bichette in front of him. That's not saying much. So Bo's not going to get on. Carson can get on, but if Carson's on first, it'll take a home run or deep in the gap to get him home. But Juan Soto's still doing his thing, and I don't understand the vitriol. And Yankee fans, they can't explain it. Their only answer for this is, well, he left. But we're going to get to that. We're going to get to that shortly. It's coming up in the program. But Juan Soto, great series against the Yankees. 400 average, 3 walks, 3 stolen bases. He helped contribute in defending the 4. And then, mind you, Soto, he struggled on that road trip. He didn't do well against Arizona. He didn't do well in Colorado despite a leadoff home run. He got put back to third in the lineup, and he's returning to his old self as a sort. So, again, Juan Soto, the lights are never too bright for Juan Soto. That was a kid, youngest player in MLB history to hit a home run in the World Series when the Nationals won that 2019 championship. Juan Soto's always had ice in his veins, and he's extra motivated because he's got half a stadium in his home stadium chanting obscenities at him. He's got half a stadium of people that hate him just because he made a decision that they didn't like. But again, more on that later. But Juan Soto definitely, continuing to show that he earned that $800 million contract, and he's living up to it. So that's that. One player that I've had enough of, and I know it's only been 46 games, and there's still plenty of season left. But I am so disappointed in Bo Bichette. Extremely disappointed in Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette, a 2-time All-Star, All MLB second team last year, led the American League in hits 2 years in a row, 2021 and 22. He has baseball pedigree in his blood. His father, Dante Bichette, longtime major league veteran. He comes to the Mets on a 3-year, $126 million contract. That's an AAV, average annual value, for those of you who don't know the lingo, of $42 million a year. The man makes $42 million a year, and he was one of the best shortstops in all of baseball the last couple of years. Blue Jays go to the World Series last year. He mashes like crazy. And had it not been for 2 home runs in the bottom of the 9th, Toronto gets a World Series title, and Bo Bichette could have very well been the World Series MVP. Signs with the Mets in the offseason. And this is what he has produced so far. A .210 batting average, 2 home runs, 18 RBIs, which is not bad, One stolen base, OPS of 531. I know we said the Mets have had a great week this week, but when we and Bo did play in all 6 games that the Mets had at Citi Field this week. Go to his game log. Tuesday against Detroit, 1 for 4. Okay, whatever. Wednesday against Detroit, 1 for 4. Thursday against Detroit, 0 for 4. Friday against the Yankees, 0 for 4. Yesterday, Saturday against the Yankees, 0 for 3. 1 for 5 today. In that time span, so from Tuesday to Sunday, because the Mets haven't had an off day. From Tuesday to Sunday, he struck out 4 times in that time span. Struck out 4 times, and he walked. Struck out 4 times, walked 3 times. So that's not bad. Walk to strikeout ratio, but he's not putting the ball in play. Well, actually, no, he's making contact, but it's been weak contact. When he makes good contact, he's hitting it like it's just baseball luck. He's hitting it right to the outfield, right to the infielders. No matter what direction he hits the ball in, somebody's standing there. Weak ground outs. Like I don't know what's wrong with Bo Bichette. Maybe Bo Bichette. Maybe Bo Bichette. You know, he got the money, and now again it's a 3-year deal. It has an opt out after every year, but maybe he got paid and he just is slacking. He's comfortable because he knows he's got 2 more years of guaranteed money. Because the Mets, if he doesn't opt out, the Mets are not going to eat that contract. They're not going to eat that contract and let him go and have to pay him out. It's crazy. Maybe he got comfortable and was like, you know what? I got a big payday. I could take a year off, essentially. I don't know if that's the train of thinking, but or maybe the bright lights in New York, because obviously the bright lights in New York are not the same as the bright lights in Toronto. But again, this guy shined on the biggest baseball stage in the world last year. I don't know. I don't know what's going on. But Bo Bichette needs to figure it out because you cannot pay a guy $42 million a year to be this bad. Barely above the Mendoza line at batting .210. And he's hitting second in the order. Your 1, 2, and 3 guys are supposed to set the tone for the rest of the lineup. But how can you set the tone when your number 2 guy in the lineup is always out? This is going to be crazy to say, but Hayden Senger hit 9th in the lineup today. If you swap Hayden Senger from 9 to 2 and put Bichette at 2 from 2 to 9, it's the same thing, really. Because Bichette's a guaranteed damn near out. What else can you do? Bo Bichette's got to step it up. I don't know if it's a mental thing. Some people say it's his first year on a new team, but that doesn't mean anything because we've seen guys be 1-year rentals or play 1 season somewhere. They signed a 1-year contract and they have pretty okay years. Juan Soto being one of them, spent 1 year as a Yankee, was an all-star that year. More on that later. But yeah, I just don't know what's gotten on with Bo Bichette. And there's not really anything you can do because even if the Mets are sellers at the trade deadline come July, you can't trade Bo Bichette because who's going to want to pay that contract? Then he can opt out. So whoever takes him might lose him for nothing. So it's like you can't DFA him because you're going to have to pay out major money. And granted, he goes somewhere else and starts hitting. And my question is, when? It's a matter of when are the Mets, like when are the Mets going to get with the program? Well, not the Mets. When is Bichette going to get with the program? When are the Mets going to realize they need to do something here? Maybe move him down or lower in the lineup. That might help. Maybe he doesn't need to hit second in the lineup. Maybe 5th, 6th. Swap him and somebody else. I don't want to take Soto out of the third spot, but Benj has been good in leadoff. Leave Carson at leadoff, but you gotta put somebody else in the 2 hole. Not Vientos. I'm okay with Vientos batting cleanup. Maybe Brett Beatty. No, not Brett Beatty because 2 lefties back to back at the top of the lineup, and then that would be 3 lefties because Benj is a lefty, Soto's a lefty, so you need a righty in that 2 spot or a switch hitter. But yeah, I don't know. Maybe Marcus Semien put him in the 2 hole when he was on the Texas Rangers. He was batting high up in the order. Maybe switch there and see if you can get something out of Bichette. Sometimes it takes guys getting demoted, and now he won't be demoted like going to AAA, but like taking him from batting second and going to like 5th, 6th, or 7th. That might wake him up. But we got to see more out of Bo Bichette. And Bo Bichette, maybe he's never historically been a slow starter, so it has to be. And granted, he came from a place where he always played with the roof closed unless it was a really nice day in an afternoon game. So maybe that could be it. Change of atmosphere. Citi Field, of course, open stadium. So I really don't know what the disconnect is for. I don't know what the disconnect is for Bo Bichette, but he's got to figure something out. And not wake up when there's only like 40 or 45 or 50 games left in the year. He's got to wake up sooner than later. Again, it's been 46 games. We're in another. Yeah, we've got one more full week of baseball in May. So 2 weeks, this week and next week. He's got 2 weeks to do something. He's got to get going by like at least when the weather gets much warmer. Mid-June at least. But I have no idea what's going on with Bo Bichette. If I didn't know any better, I'd say this is like a Space Jam type of situation. Somebody came and took his abilities, because this is not the Bo Bichette that the same Bo Bichette that played in the World Series in Toronto. This is not the same Bo Bichette that hit 290 in the regular season last year. And this is definitely not the Bo Bichette that we've all come to know if you paid attention to the Blue Jays or just baseball in general. So Bo Bichette's got to wake up. I don't know what's going on with him. But if I were Mendy, I'd move him down in the order. Let Marcus Semien take at bats at second, even though that's not much better. Semien did have a home run this weekend, but when things are not working, you gotta switch it up. Things weren't working. They tried Soto and leadoff. They put him back to third. Things are not working, but Bichette, move him down to 5th or 6th. Try Marcus Semien in that spot and see what happens. Simeon's used to batting high up in the order. He did it in Texas all up until last year. So I would like to see that be given a try. We're going to go to the comments here. Elvin Solano says Benj plus Ewing plus speed equals wins. You don't even have to say plus speed because both of them are speedy already, but we've seen what Benj and Ewing on the big league club did this week. So could be a sign of things to come. Alfredo Flores says Aaron Boone would mostly get fired before Mendoza. Imagine Yankees losing to depleted Mets. We're going to talk about that in a bit. We talked about it earlier, but we're going to go in depth in a bit. And then Drew Learn says, if one of our catchers gets hurt, who will be called up to help add depth to the roster? Ben Rortved, Kevin Parada, Chris Suero, Diverson Gutierrez, or Onyx Vega? Who do I think? To answer your question, Drew, and this is a good question, by the way, because Francisco Alvarez is already hurt. More on him in just a minute. Ben Rortved has major league experience, so you would naturally think that Rortved would get the nod should Sanger or Torrens get hurt, which hopefully not. But we look at Ben Rortved. Ben Rortved is right now in Syracuse. He was in spring training with the Mets. We saw him and Austin Barnes play in this spring. It's highlighted in our spring training blog when we went to Port St. Lucie. Ben Rortved, for his career, is a 190 hitter, Drew. 559 career at bats, 190 average, 9 home runs, 52 RBIs, 1 stolen base. He's played 4 seasons in Major League Baseball. 4 seasons for 4 different teams. He made his debut with the Twins in 2021. Didn't play in 2022. Was a Yankee in 23, a Tampa Bay Ray in 24. Split time last season between the Rays and the Dodgers. So, yeah, and was on the World Series roster for the Dodgers last season. He was credited with being a World Series champion. So, yeah, even though he never played a single game in that World Series, but he was on the roster, so he gets the ring. But Rortved is the only one on that list that you named that has Major League experience. As far as Kevin Parada goes, he's been in the Mets organization for a while. He's not a Stearns guy. I could see him getting flipped for something, especially because it seems like his development is taking much longer than it should. He's not even producing minor league numbers right now. Gutierrez and Vega, I don't really have much of an opinion on. I don't think if Senger or Torrens went down, they would be any type of option to consider. And then here's my pick off the list. And if you go back and watch our spring training vlogs from the end of February or early March, Chris Suero is somebody that I've really been impressed with. Suero is like the ultimate jack of all trades defensively that you can have on a baseball diamond. Suero can play in the outfield. He can play catcher. He can play first base. He can hit for power. In our spring training vlog, we highlighted Chris Suero hitting a home run while we were live in Port St. Lucie. That spring training vlog is on the channel from when the Mets played the Astros in Grapefruit League action. I'm very high on Chris Suero. Chris Suero, you want to look at his minor league numbers since we do talk a bit of minor league here on the program. But Chris Suero, currently, the Mets prospect who signed in 2022, currently hitting 204, but he's got 7 home runs, 18 RBIs, 860 OPS, and he can steal bases too. He's a catcher that has stolen 10 bases. Where do you ever see catchers stealing bases at all in the major league level? Very rare. So catchers are usually on the slower end, but again, he's a utility guy. He can play outfield. He can play first. So yeah, he's currently in Binghamton right now, but I guarantee you before this year is up, if he'll make an appearance in Syracuse. But Chris Suero would be my pick to have the highest ceiling on that list. They'll probably call up Rortved first, but in the long term, Suero is the answer in my opinion. Drew also asks, Alfred, if you look at all the injured guys on the Mets, which guys do you think will be needed to go on a rehab assignment or just skip and go straight to the majors? To tell you the truth, Drew, you look at the guys on the injured list. Luis Robert has a herniated disc in his back. Lindor has that calf issue. AJ Minter, he's been rehabbing for a while, so I'm not going to include him in this conversation. Francisco Alvarez, if he does come back, he's going to come back from a torn meniscus. Clay Holmes, they say he may or may not need surgery, but he'll be out for a while, but there's a chance he could come back late in the year if the Mets are still competitive. All those guys are going to need rehab assignments because all those injuries are catastrophic. Lindor's calf is worse than what Soto suffered from, so he's going to have a long layoff from baseball activities. You can't just throw a guy who's been injured for a while back into big league game competition. He's got to get live game action somewhere. So I wouldn't be mad. And not even I wouldn't be mad. It's not realistic to want to have them avoid rehab stints in the minors. So speaking of guys rehabbing, we're gonna have a Mets injury report here. Talk about we try to do a Mets injury report every show just to give you guys updates on what's going on and who may be on the track to come back from the injured list. So we'll go here. Latest, I'm pulling up the notes here that I took from our injured list research. But yeah, the Mets are pretty banged up. Like I said, AJ Minter, Luis Robert Jr., Francisco Lindor. Now Francisco Alvarez earlier. He got hurt on Tuesday. So here we go. Mets injury updates. Jorge Polanco, who has been on the injured list since April 18th with left Achilles bursitis. He's expected to return at some point this month. Like I said, we've only got 2 weeks of baseball left in this month. He continues to participate in baseball activities, but is not expected to be fully healthy all season, which is crazy. He has experienced some good days and some other days when it's not as good, according to manager Carlos Mendoza. He has to get to a place where he can at least play through the pain. So this is crazy, and I'm gonna stop here and talk about this because early in the season, Jorge Polanco was complaining of being hurt. The Achilles was sore, he said, but the Mets played him through it, which was a mistake. You never want to play a guy who's working through that type of injury because you push him hard enough, that Achilles will tear. Thankfully, it didn't. But now to come out and say that he's not going to be fully healthy at any point in the year. I mean, I know we signed the guy to a 2-year deal, but why not just shut him down? It's not like when he was up, he was productive. Polanco, you look at his numbers from before he went out, batting 179, 1 home run, 2 RBIs, and that's it. It's not like he was hitting all over the place, hitting like crazy. And we've seen in the past what long layoffs can do. We saw Jose Siri out damn near the whole year last season. He came back toward the end of the season and got DFA'd because he just couldn't hack it. So, Jorge Polanco, for the manager of this ball club to say that his player on the injured list is never going to be 100% at any point in the year, why even bring him back? Or why even, I mean, it's good to tell the truth and publicly admit it, but why even bring him back? Doesn't make any sense. Why even bring him back? So, Polanco, who knows when he'll be back? I mean, like I said, the expected return is sometime in May, and like I said, we've only got 2 full weeks of May left. So it either have to be by this week or at some point next week, and I just don't see it happening. He had a wrist issue too. Apparently, the wrist issue has been resolved and it's healed, and now it's just the Achilles. And then what can you really do with Polanco? And it's crazy because, and I hate to keep bringing up Pete Alonso because Pete Alonso is no longer here. But not only do you respond by getting rid of the longtime first baseman who still has something to prove and offer and something left in the tank, and you replace him with a guy who's never played first, and then you replace him with a guy who has an injury history, and then on top of that, you look at Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso has only missed in his Met career, I believe, only 24 games. Polanco has missed more than that in this season alone. And Pete was a Met from 2019 to 2026. So one of the best abilities is availability. And right now, Jorge Polanco has unavailability. Can't be effective and can't help the team if you're not on the field. And then even when you come back, the best he can do is DH. I wouldn't want a guy who's suffering from a year-long Achilles bursitis to play in the field. I would be so afraid. And again, Achilles bursitis, if he gets a hit, he's gonna have to run bases. I would not risk it and bring Jorge Polanco back, but that's just me. It's not like he had a meaningful bat anyway. Then we get to Kodai Senga, who has been on the injured list with a lumbar spine inflammation. He's been on the injured list since April 27th. Expected return is June. He flew to Florida to throw a multi-inning live batting practice session today on May 17th. He will not advance to game action until his pitch metrics are in the place that he wants. So clearly, Senga's not. This is like a repeat of last year. Toward the end of the year, he got hurt. It was time to bring him up, and he said he didn't feel comfortable being brought up. He's hurt again, throwing live BP, and he won't even go to game action until he tells them that he's ready, which he's clearly not. How long until he's ready? Nobody knows, but it's very, very unfortunate. AJ Minter, who had left lat surgery and now left hip discomfort, has Been on the injured list March 25th. Retroactive to March 22nd when he was supposed to get off the injured list before he reported the hip discomfort. Expected to return late May or early June. He has restarted his minor league rehab assignment on May 15th after leaving his previous one due to a setback with his hip. He will not require a full 30-day buildup, but he does remain 1 to 2 weeks away from coming back. So the worst case scenario is done and over with. Minter going to be back sooner than later. That leaves the question of who in that bullpen is getting chopped. It's in my opinion, it's between Joey Gerber, who might get sent back down since he still has minor league options, or the veteran Craig Kimbrell, who has had a rough go of it the last few outings. I think that this is Kimbrell's last ride in the majors, if I'm honestly speaking. And I think he's going to be the casualty of AJ Minter coming back. Jared Young, who tore his meniscus in his left knee, began he's been on the IL since April 13th. Expected to return late May or early June. He began a rehab assignment on May 15th, which was Friday, almost exactly 1 month after his surgery. He'll build up over the coming weeks. Francisco Lindor, been on the IL with a calf strain since April 23rd. Expected to return late June. He underwent an MRI on May 13th that showed signs of healing, but not enough for him to begin a running progression. He will not have a concrete timetable determined until he can restart baseball activities. And then the latest injury, the second to latest injury, Francisco Alvarez, who tore his right meniscus on Tuesday, expected to return in mid-July. He tore his meniscus on a swing against the Tigers. He underwent surgery on Thursday, and he's expected to be back in 8 weeks. Yeah, so that's the Mets still pretty banged up. Luis Robert Jr., lumbar spine disc herniation since April 30th. No timetable on his return. He did get an injection on April 30th, but was still experiencing symptoms as of May 12th, which was Tuesday. He's consulting with outside doctors but surgery is not on the table. The timeline will remain fluid until symptoms subside. Ronnie Mauricio, who fractured his left thumb, been on the IL since May 3rd. He's going to miss 6 to 8 weeks. No further update. And then the catastrophic injury of them all. On Friday night's game, and you know what? I got to give the man his flowers here. Clay Holmes, in the third inning of Friday night's game against the Yankees, he took a line drive off of his shin. Trainers came out and checked him. He got the out, by the way. Spencer Jones, the Yankees rookie, he hit that ball, and that ball had an exit velocity, I believe, of 108 or 110 miles an hour. And the ball came back off of bounced right off, straight line drive to the leg of Clay Holmes. And yeah, Clay Holmes finished the inning. He pitched another inning and a half after that line drive before he was pulled from the game. And who would have thought Clay Holmes was pitching with a broken fibula for another inning and a half after that line drive to his leg off the bat of Spencer Jones? You know, for a guy to pitch with a broken fibula, I can't even fathom how difficult that is. I really can't. And for Clay Holmes to continue to go out there and try and gut things out, and he had to be in some type of intense pain, and continuing to pitch. I'm not wearing a hat, but if I did have a hat, I'd tip my hat. I'd tip my hat to that man. It's real gutsy and admirable that he continued to pitch through that pain, because the trainer, as soon as that play was over, the trainer came out and he waved him off. He told Mendy and the trainer he was okay. Went back out there for the fourth, started the fifth. But the injury update is that he has a fractured right fibula. He was put on the injured list yesterday, and his expected return is in August. He fractured his leg on a comebacker, and he'll need 6 to 8 weeks to heal, and another 6 weeks after that 6 to 8 weeks for a spring training style buildup. That should take him well past the All-Star break in a best case scenario, but the Mets do expect him back at some point in August. But Clay Holmes, again, my ultimate respect. Clay Holmes pitching on a broken leg, and we didn't find out till after the game when Mendy had his post-game press conference that uh, in his post-game press conference that um, Holmes was hurt, and the exact quote was, "He's going to be out a long time, broken fibula." But the fact that he continued to pitch on that broken fibula, and maybe he came out of the game in the fifth just because Clay Holmes has been an innings eater so far this season, and the fact that he probably didn't want to come out when they pulled him, but maybe the adrenaline wore off and that started to affect him. But gutsy performance Friday night, didn't get the win. He entered Friday night with the third best ERA in the National League amongst starters, but no chance of a Cy Young award now. Now that he's going to be sidelined to at least August the earliest. But Clay Holmes, my opinion is this: Clay Holmes, if the Mets are because they're not going to be able to flip him at the deadline anymore. Because I believe if the Mets were not in a good place by the trade deadline, Holmes would be a candidate to be traded, but you can't move him now that he's going to be hurt, which may be a blessing and a curse. But if the Mets are not competitive by the time August rolls around, you shut him down for the year. He does have an opt out after this season, so he can opt out. I believe he's going to opt out to try to either get more money. If he's seeking a big money contract, Stearns is not going to give it to him, but he can go somewhere else and get the bag. He is 33 years old, so that might factor into his decision. I don't see him with a year left going to stay, but the Mets might lose him for nothing because again, nobody's gonna be a buyer while he's hurt. So the Mets not gonna be able to flip him for something before he potentially may opt out. But that's a big blow to this Mets rotation. Clay Holmes was one of the more reliable arms in this bullpen. So, I mean, not in the bullpen, sorry, in the starting rotation. He was one of the more reliable arms in the rotation outside of Nolan. I would say besides Nolan McLean, he's the top arm in the rotation. Freddie Peralta's been up and down, 5-inning Freddie not being able to make it past the sixth. But, Clay Holmes getting hurt is a big blow because it's now, what do you do? David Peterson has been so superb in this piggyback role he's been put in. I don't think you want to make him a starter again, even though, you've been a starter your whole career. Why should you have to be a piggyback? The Mets have two piggyback pitchers in their bullpen, in Sean Manaea and David Peterson. If I had to pick, Peterson would go back into the rotation because I definitely don't want Sean Manaea starting any games for me. If I had to have a voice in it or be a deciding factor, I don't even want Sean Manaea on the team, let alone starting games. So we'll see what happens. The Mets did call up Joey Gerber. A starter goes on the injured list and is going to be gone for months, and you respond by bringing up a bullpen guy, which means to tell me that there are going to be more bullpen games in the Mets' future, which is not good because you're going to end up taxing the bullpen that way. And I've never been a fan of bullpen games. I don't believe in them. You have a reliever come in and a different reliever every 1 to 2 innings. That's how you roll through arms. If you notice in today's finale of the Subway Series, Mendoza only pitched 3 pitchers the whole way. He had Peralta exit in the 6th. Sean Manaea pitched the 6th through the 9th, and Devin Williams came in the top of the 10th. And if the Mets would have went to 11, Craig Kimbrell would have came in, and that definitely would have been a loss. But thank God the boys were able to walk it off in the 10th. But if it was up to me, I would honestly bring up Jack Wenninger. I brought up Jack Wenninger last on a couple of programs ago. There's a video that came out about 2 weeks ago where I said Wenninger has been solid in the farm. So I would love to see Jack Wenninger up. I think he's ready. Out of all the Mets starting pitchers, I think Jack Wenninger, out of all of them that are starters on the Syracuse Mets, I think Wenninger is the best one who's ready right now. Definitely would not bring up Jonah Tong, who's struggling in AAA Syracuse to start this year. Wenninger seems ready. ERA under 1.5. I believe his ERA is like almost 1.3. Not bad numbers. He does have a high ratio of walks. I believe on average for every 9 innings he pitches, he gives up 5 walks. But at the same time, um, I know there's not really anybody on the free agent market because the season's already started, and you don't want to panic and make a trade and have to give up a valuable asset this early in the season. So you got to look to the farm. I mean, the Mets, they looked to the farm for outfield help, and they went and got AJ Ewing, and we saw what that did. So maybe Wenninger might have it. Called up Nolan McLean from the farm last year. We saw Nolan McLean went 5-1 with a great ERA. So um, yeah, at this point you got to turn to the kids out of desperation. But I would not want Jonah Tong up. Got to go Jack Wenninger. Jack Wenninger would be my choice to replace Clay Holmes. But what a big blow to the Mets bullpen to lose Clay Holmes for seemingly the next 3 months. And that's in the best case scenario. He may not come back at all. And then you don't want to hope that he opts out after he heals either, because again, you can't move him at the deadline because he's hurt. So it's not like the NBA where you might be able to get away with trading an injured player. So not good news that Clay Holmes is hurt, and we may have seen the last appearance of Holmes as a Met, because again, if by the time Holmes is ready, if the Mets are not competitive, that's not a move I want to make to activate him. I'd shut him down for his own good. Let's go to the comments here. Drew Learn says he hates the Yankees. He feels so bad for Spencer Jones when the SNY reporter told him that it was his line drive that broke his fibula. He said they were good friends. He said, "I'm sorry, man." It looked like he was going to break down in tears. It has been known that in the offseason, Spencer Jones did work out with Clay Holmes. And then he says, Jonah, referring to Jonah Tong, is struggling. But when I saw him, he did well. But I can't judge him off that game because everyone played well that day. And that's just baseball. Sometimes your superstars, um, they perform below average, and sometimes you get mediocre or below average players who are the reincarnation of Cy Young and Ty Cobb and Stan Musial. So, yeah, that's baseball. That's just how the cookie crumbles. We're over an hour into the broadcast. Going to bring up one last topic. I've been waiting to talk about this all weekend. The Subway Series. Now, I've already recapped the series. Yankees beat the Mets 2-1. But I got to address the Yankee fans like I addressed them last year. That video is still on the channel. You can go find it. But now, mind you, the Mets rivals are the Philadelphia Phillies and the Atlanta Braves. I've sat in many of games at Citi Field where we played the Braves, we played the Phillies, their fans were in our stadium. And mind you, these are division rivals. And their fans didn't even act, not even an ounce of the way that the Yankee fans act. As soon as you walk into Citi Field, even from before you walk in, you walk through the parking lot, you walk up the street, down the street, because I don't park in the parking lot. I got to Citi Field an hour and 15 minutes before first pitch Friday. The first thing I heard when I got out the car, F. Juan Soto. It's been 2 years. Here's the mind-boggling thing. It's not like Juan Soto was a homegrown Yankee. It's not like he was even a Yankee by choice. Remember, the Yankees made a trade that involved Michael King and Ron Marinaccio and sent them over to San Diego and got back Soto and Trent Grisham in return. Soto never signed with the Yankees. He never said, I wanted to go be a Yankee. He was sent there by another team because when they wanted, because his contract was going to come up that year, and that offseason when the Padres tried to extend him, He wouldn't commit. And the Padres were a great situation. He had a rookie Jackson Merrill, who that kid's a stud, and he had two of his countrymen who are two of the greatest players of this generation, in Manny Machado and Fernando Tatis Jr. That lineup of Merrill, Machado, Soto, and Tatis, that's a heck of a lineup. Add in Xander Bogaerts, who got there for 2024. That's a heck of a 1 through 5. Jake Cronenworth was better back then. That was a heck of a 1 through 6. That wasn't enough to convince him to stay. He wouldn't commit. Same reason why the Nationals traded him to the Padres. They wanted to extend him, make him they gave him like offered him a 15-year deal. He didn't want to take it. So he wasn't even a Yankee by choice. He got traded there. It was always assumed, and anytime you get a guy on an expiring contract via trade, you should always assume that he's going to be a 1-year rental. He didn't want to negotiate with the Yankees in spring training. Didn't want to negotiate during the season. He heard them in the offseason. He chose the Mets. It happens. Players in every sport leave a team and go elsewhere. But for Yankee fans to have so much hatred toward Juan Soto, and he's not the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, 100th player in Yankee history to leave. Roger Clemens faked a retirement after the 2003 World Series to then go sign with his hometown Houston Astros a year later. And Yankee fans to this day have no vitriol towards Roger Clemens, who was there for years and won, 2 or 3 World Series with them. I believe he was there in 98, definitely won in 99 and 2000. But there's no vitriol towards Roger Clemens. None. And he's not, and then, there have been other Yankees that have left. Curtis Granderson went from the Yankees to the Mets. Curtis Granderson did it before Juan Soto did it a whole decade earlier. And even in his introductory press conference, Curtis Granderson stated, and I quote, "I play for the real New York team now." Took a shot at the organization that he came from. And the Yankee fans don't hate Curtis Granderson. So where does the vitriol come? You know what it is? Because I'm not dumb. My memory is not messed up. I remember in 2024, especially during the World Series, there were chants in Yankee Stadium of re-sign Soto. So you clearly wanted him to come back. And because he went somewhere else, now you hate him? I went to all 3 games of this Subway Series, and I heard some nasty things yelled about and to Juan Soto. Somebody in the crowd, in the stand, said they wanted him to die. Wanted him to die because he left their team. You know what this is giving? And I've called it scorned ex-girlfriend behavior last year, and I'll do it again this year. The Yankee fans towards Juan Soto, they act like scorned ex-girlfriends. They got left, and they didn't want to be left because they wanted this person to stay. And the person stayed, and the person left and didn't stay. And now all of a sudden you hate that person when you just loved them a couple of months before. But because they left and wanted to be in a better situation for themselves personally, that warrants nasty things to be said and even wishing death on somebody. The Yankees still made the playoffs last year without Juan Soto. It's been 2 years. He only played for your team for 1 year. 1 year. We're not talking about 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 seasons. 1 year. Just one. And all the nastiness that gets said about Soto. I just don't get it. So by this logic, we should hate all of our ex-girlfriends. We should hate every job that we've ever left. or the job should hate us. Our exes should hate us. Our job should hate us because we left for a better situation for ourselves and for our families. I've never seen it in sports where one player left an organization or a team and that fan base completely hate. And the Yankee fans, you tell them, well, you show them the footage of the Yankee fans chanting "Resign Soto," and they'll act stupid in front of you like it never happened. They'll be like, "Oh, I don't remember that." You'll show them the proof. You'll bring up the video clips on YouTube or MLB.com, and they'll feign ignorance. But it happened. You guys wanted him, and he didn't want you, and that's okay. People leave situations. People leave relationships. People leave jobs all the time. The man just wanted security for his mother. And the Yankees weren't willing to do that. Be mad at your front office that they weren't willing to give him the one accommodation that the Mets were willing to give him. I'm pretty sure if Brian Cashman and the Steinbrenners, Hank and Hal said, you know what, Juan, we'll give your mother 24/7 security, no problem, he probably would have signed. And then for people to say, well, he wasn't worth the money anyway. The man was finished third in NL MVP voting last year. He had a 40 home run, 38 stolen base season. He was 2 stolen bases away from 40-40. Career high in home runs and stolen bases last year. He's worth the money. He's just not worth it to you because your feelings are hurt. And then let's get to the Subway Series. So again, walking up to and into Citi Field, the Yankee fans act like they own the place. Now, I don't mind them chanting, "Let's go Yankees." They want their team to win. I have no issue with that. What I do have an issue with is the nastiness that comes from them. Before the game even starts, before a first pitch was even thrown, obscenities toward the Mets fans sitting around them, heckling Mets fans around them. Again, Phillies fans and Braves fans don't act like this unless they're drunk. And a lot of those Yankee fans weren't drunk. Walking up to random Met fans, threats of violence for no reason, and people minding their business. There was a row in front of me, who was chanting "Let's go Mets," and the Yankee fan in front of him turned around and told him to shut up. And when the guy told him he wasn't going to shut up, he was ready to fight him. At Citi Field, we're a civilized place. We're a civilized place. All the Bronx trash that found its way into Citi Field on this weekend is just disgusting. Yankee fans act very disgusting. I don't know how they do things in Yankee Stadium. I've only been there one time in my life, and I don't think I would ever want to go back there. At least not willingly or not by choice. You'd have to kidnap me and drag me to a game there. Even if the Mets play, I don't want to be in the Bronx. I don't want to be in Yankee Stadium. It's not the same vibe. The Mets is a fun party vibe. Going to Yankee Stadium is like watching a baseball game taking place in a cathedral. But nonetheless, the Yankee fans treating the Met fans poorly, acting horrifically, putting their hands on people. There were several fights, several altercations throughout the weekend. I witnessed it with my own 2 eyes. I heard it with my own 2 ears. And then the biggest problem I have with Yankee fans is that they're bullies. And what I mean by that is pre-game or pre-series, they'll tell you that the Mets suck. I've heard the phrase "poverty franchise" thrown around. Little league team. I've heard so many deplorable things said about the Mets. Little brother's not bad. Yankees been around since forever. Mets only came around since 1962. But I've heard so many deplorable things about this Yankee. I mean, about the Mets from Yankee fans, and it's very disgusting the way that they behave. And then they tell you pre-series they're going to beat you. Mets suck. The Mets are not going anywhere. You're not going to make the playoffs. You guys are in last place in your division. Yada 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 yada. Blah 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 blah. All a whole bunch of noise. Then the Yankees beat the Mets Friday. The Yankee fans talked even more garbage. I personally was told the Mets are going to be in Cancun by September. No shot at playoffs. My team sucks. We haven't won since 1986. By the way, telling Met fans we haven't won since 86. But the Yankee fans will be the first ones to tell you about their 27 rings. They haven't, yeah, sure, they won more recent than the Mets did, but they haven't won since 2009. They got to the World Series 2 years ago, and we saw how the Dodgers mollywopped them. Their daddy and savior, Aaron Judge, did nothing that October. And I don't understand how they could hate Juan Soto, because you take Juan Soto off that team, they don't get to the World Series. Juan Soto and Giancarlo Stanton carried the Yankees to that World Series that year. But you hate Soto, but had you won the ring, Soto would have been the reason you won the ring. But again, Yankee fans live in their own delusion. And the Yankee fans on Saturday, before the pitch was even thrown, want to recap the previous game and tell you about last night and how they beat you 5-2, and the Mets suck, and we're gonna pound you again, we're gonna beat you again, and all the chirping and talking. And I see the talk online, everybody criticizing the Mets, ridiculing the Mets, laughing at the Mets. So because the Yankees are such a big and bad team with a much better record than the Mets, you would think in theory that even if they don't sweep the Mets, they'll at least take 2 out of 3 and win the series. Now, mind you, Yankee fans don't want to talk about the fact that prior to this series, they lost 6 out of 8. They don't want to talk about how they dropped 2 games to Baltimore the series before, or how they got swept by the Milwaukee Brewers in the series before that. Yankee fans don't want to tell you that despite their record, they don't want to admit that when you look at the American League, which the Yankees play in, and I'm not just talking about the AL East, we're talking about the American League in general. There are only 4 teams in the American League at or better than 500. The Tampa Bay Rays are 30-15. The Yankees haven't played the Rays all season yet. The Guardians are 26-22. The Yankees haven't played them yet. The White Sox are 24-22. Yankees haven't played them yet. And the Athletics sit at 23-23, exactly at 500 in a division where every other team in that division is below 500. There are 5 teams in each division. There are 3 divisions in the league. So out of 15 teams in your league, only 3 are above 500. 1 is at 500. And the other 11 are below 500. But they don't want to talk about that. You look at the Mets, who play in the National League. There are, out of 15 teams in the National League, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams out of 15 are above 500. You have the Braves at 32-15, the Phillies at 24-23. The entire NL Central, that entire division, is above 500. Cubs 29-18, Brewers 26-18, Cardinals 27-19, Pirates and Reds both 24-23. And then you have the Dodgers and the Padres. Dodgers 29-18, Padres 28-18. And even so, out of the remaining teams, the Diamondbacks are 1 game under 500 and the Nationals are 1 game under 500. And out of all these teams, the Mets have played the Cubs and the Cardinals and the Pirates. So I don't understand how the Yankee fans look at the Mets record and don't take into account what league they play in. Look at the rest of the league. You've been beating up on nobodies. You've been beating up on poor teams most of the season. Then when you face the real team in Milwaukee, you got your ass handed to you. But the Yankee fans don't want to talk about that. Then the other thing is the Yankee fans think that every player on their roster is a superstar. Now, granted, Aaron Judge may be the best hitter in all of the American League. whatever you want to say about that. I don't care about the American League. The Mets play in the NL East. They have Aaron Judge. They have Ben Rice. Dangerous guys all throughout the lineup. Paul Goldschmidt, Jazz Chisholm Jr. But they have the pitching. Well, some of the pitching. But you can't tell a Yankee fan about anybody on their roster. You just can't. And then when the Yankees lose, the energy changes. It goes from the Mets suck to, well, we've got 27 rings. But what do your 27 rings, the last one coming in 2009, have to do with what's going on right now? What does it have to do with what's going on right now? The last time you went to the World Series was 2024. We got beat in the NLCS by the team that went on to win the World Series and beat you. And we played better against that same team than you did. 2024 NLCS, Mets lost that series 4-2. Yankees lost the World Series to that same Dodgers club 4-1. And Freddie Freeman, oh, he loves Yankee Stadium, by the way. But they don't want to talk about that. Yankee fans, they might as well be historians. They might as well be historians because Yankee fans, they love to tell you about 27 rings. They love to talk about Babe Ruth. They love to talk about Derek Jeter. They love to talk about Mariano Rivera. And they love to tell Met fans, well, you haven't won in 40 years. Well, that's true. We haven't won in 40 years. But you know what Met fans don't do? We don't stay stuck onto the testicles of 1986. We don't. Met fans will say in casual conversation, oh, yeah, we won 2 rings. We won in 1969. We won in 1986. But we're not harping on our last bit of glory like Yankee fans do. And a lot of Yankee fans, and you know what? Because I'm so pissed off with this group of obnoxious, entitled jackasses, now we're really going to get into it. We're really going to get into it. And I said this last year, and I'm going to reiterate the point again. You look at the Yankees team history, and these are things that New York Yankee fans, they don't want to talk about, either because they can't handle the truth and they can't handle facts, or they just don't know history. The New York Yankees have 27 world championships, right? 27. 1923, 1927, 28, 1932, 36, 37, 38, 39, 41, 43, 47, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 56, 58, 61, 62, 77, 78, 96, 98, 99, 2000, 2009. 27 World Series titles, right? Out of those 27, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of them, 10 of them came while baseball was still segregated. Now, for those of you who don't know what segregation is, blacks and Latinos were not allowed to play in Major League Baseball until 1947. So the first 10 championships, they didn't even play against the best competition. And there were plenty of guys in the Negro League who didn't get a chance to play in the majors because by the time Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier and integrated baseball, they were already old. Late 30s, early 40s. So no major league team would take a flyer on them. But there was a lot. There was a lot of great talent in the Negro Leagues that I dare say were better than major league talent of that time period. Well, I'll give you guys a history lesson real quick. When the Negro Leagues were fully integrated into major league statistics, Josh Gibson became the all-time batting champion. A lot of people will tell you that Josh Gibson, and mind you, Negro League records are incomplete because, again, segregation, lesser facilities, uh, lesser standards back then because colored folk, minorities, if you will, were not afforded the same facilities and technology as their Caucasian counterparts. So record keeping is not even complete, but from the records we do have, Josh Gibson's the best hitter of all time. Who knows how many total home runs he hit? But at the same time, I think that if those Yankee teams that won those 10 championships prior to integration, they never had to face a cool Papa Bell. They never had to face a Josh Gibson. They never had to face a Willard S.A. Hombre Brown, a Rube Foster. And I can keep going on and on. They never had to face Leon Day or Biz Mackey or Turkey Stearns. And these names I'm chiming out, a lot of you probably never even heard of. Buck O'Neil. Like, they didn't have to face any of these people. And these guys were prolific talents in both the Negro leagues, Dominican leagues, Puerto Rican leagues, Caribbean leagues. They never had to play them. So that's the first point of contention when the Yankee fans want to talk about their 27 rings. The first 10 you have to asterisk because they didn't play the best competition. A lot of those major league rosters back in those days, yeah, you had a couple superstars here or there, but mostly you had the guy who was a pilot in the war, a guy who worked at the liquor store, a guy who was a clerk in the hardware store. There were a lot of average Joes in the major leagues back in that time period. So you want to talk about 27 rings, Yankee fans, do your research. Babe Ruth and Lou Gehrig and those Yankee teams did not play the best competition available because of the racism in America. And yes, I'm going there. So you can take off 10 of your championships. The next bone of contention. How many teams were in the league when the Yankees won those championships? I'm going to pull it up year by year. Expansion started in Major League Baseball in 1961. So prior to 1961, there were no LA Angels. There were no Washington Senators who later went on to be the Minnesota Twins. 1962 brought the Mets and the Houston Colt 45s, who are now the Astros. 1969 brought about the Kansas City Royals and the Seattle Pilots, who later became the Milwaukee Brewers. San Diego Padres, Montreal Expos also became major league franchises in 69. There were 16 teams in the league prior to 1961. 16 teams in baseball prior to 61. So now you take the 10 before 1947. You add 47, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 56, 58. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 of the 27 titles were either in segregation or there were only 16 teams in the league. There are now 30 teams in Major League Baseball. And that's now. That's now. The last expansion was in 1993. So between 1961 to 1993, we went from 16 to 30 teams. I mean, when there's only 16 teams in the league, somebody's got to win. Granted, it's not easy, but it was easier back then. So you know what? Out of all those 27 rings, I'll give legitimacy to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 out of 27. Because there was a shorter field of competition and there was racism that prevented some of the best baseball players of the day from facing the Yankees, those Yankee teams. But Yankee fans don't want to talk about that. No. They don't. They don't want to hear that. You see, one thing I've realized when you debate with Yankee fans, they don't like facts being stated unless it's facts in their favor. So aside from being historians, Yankee fans should also be lawyers too, because they make a great case for themselves and their organization. They refuse to acknowledge that when it comes to big stages and the lights are the brightest, the World Baseball Classic and the World Series I'm talking about, that their savior and their daddy, Aaron Judge, is nowhere to be found. Case in point, the 2024 World Series. Case in point, Aaron Judge's entire career in the postseason. Case in point, the 2026 World Baseball Classic Finals against Venezuela. Doesn't show up, nowhere to be found. Aaron Judge is the greatest regular season baseball player I've ever seen. Yeah, sure, he's great in a meaningless game in July against the Athletics. You put him in the World Series against the Dodgers or the ALCS against the Astros years ago. He ain't nowhere to be found. Like Casper the Ghost. But Yankee fans, they don't want to talk about that because he's the savior and the daddy, and a three-time MVP. By the way, the MVP award is given out to the best regular season player in the league. That's how Mike Trout has 3 MVPs too. Because Mike Trout's only been in playoffs once. So yeah, he's a great regular season player. Broke Roger Maris's home run record. By the way, this is a Mets program, and I'm talking about Yankee history. I probably know more about Yankees than a lot of Yankee fans do. So this is sad. But Yankee fans don't like to admit to a lot. You bring up the 2001 World Series when Luis Gonzalez of the Diamondbacks got that hit off Mariano Rivera, they lost the series. You bring up Miguel Cabrera taking Roger Clemens' yard in the 2003 World Series. They don't like to talk about that stuff. You brought up today. You know how many Yankee fans yelled things at me because I was celebrating the Mets taking the Subway Series? Oh, this is your World Series, and oh, you guys needed this more than we did. Why can't we talk about what's going on right now? Why can't you just say, good game, yeah, you beat us, and keep it moving? It has to be some type of deflection. It has to be some type of excuse. It goes from, we're going to beat you, then when you get beat, when you punch, the bully will always bark the loudest. Then when you punch him in the face, now all of a sudden, it's, well, before you beat me, before you beat me, and you needed to win this fight more than me, but before you beat me, I beat everybody else before you. Like, bullies don't like when the people that they bully hit back. And that's what Yankee fans are. They're bullies. They're classless, obnoxious, disgusting bullies. And maybe not all of them. But a lot of them are. And nobody can tell me otherwise because I sat in Citi Field Friday, yesterday, and today. I sat there 3 games in a row and had to witness it and experience it. So nobody can tell me that, oh, yeah, Yankee fans don't act like they're classless. They are a classless group of people. Met fans, when we lose, we don't make excuses. We criticize our own team. And that's another thing. Yankee fans don't criticize their own team. They look for some external source to blame. They don't take any accountability. For all the hatred toward Juan Soto, why are you not mad at Aaron Judge for not showing up in the playoffs or not showing up in the World Series when you played the Dodgers? You're mad at the wrong guy. Like I said, Aaron Judge, greatest regular season player I've ever seen in my life. But you're mad Yankee fans at the wrong guy. And then Yankee fans can't deal with when they're proven wrong. They can't. They have a self-accountability problem. And it's always, we're going to beat you to, we have 27 rings. Oh, you won't see October. We'll still be playing baseball. And that's all good and well. The Mets may not make the playoffs. But if the Yankees make the playoffs, they're probably not winning a championship because they've still got to deal with whoever comes out of the National League. And I say it, as of right now, the way the standings look, the American League looks like the Mickey Mouse League. You only got 3 teams in the entire league above 500. You come to the NL, 2 teams in the East above 500, 2 teams in the West above 500, the entire NL Central above 500. And you want to criticize the Mets record? 2 things can be similar and not the same at the same time. And Yankee fans, it's like their egos get bruised when they lose. It's like they take what happens on the field so personally. Somebody threatened to fight me several times throughout the course of the weekend. I would never fight over a baseball game because I'm not playing in it. I'm just a spectator. Yeah, I'm rooting for the Mets, but nothing that happens on that field is going to warrant me wanting to punch somebody in the face. It's classless, obnoxious behavior. I'm never going to splash a drink in somebody's face. I'm never going to throw a cup or a bucket of popcorn at somebody because they're rooting for the other team. But Yankee fans, again, obnoxious, classless, entitled morons who are willing to get physical over a baseball game that they're not playing in, that they paid to go watch. I don't mind a contingent of fans of the other team coming into Citi Field in our home. I do not mind that. Whoever wants to buy a ticket can buy a ticket. Whatever. Have a good night. Eat some food. Talk with people. Have a good time. But Yankee fans came to Citi Field choosing violence from the very beginning. The very beginning. And then and you know what? I'm actually glad that today's game, the finale of the Subway Series, went to extra innings. You know why? Because on Saturday, when things looked grim, Yankee fans hit the exits early. They couldn't hit the exits early this game because they were up by 3 runs in the 9th inning, thinking that David Bednar was going to shut the door, up 3 with 2 on and 2 out. And Tyrone Taylor, of all people, at the plate. I personally thought the game was over. I thought Tyrone Taylor was gonna strike out at best. But then when that home run got hit, and I saw all the Yankee fans sit down, faces in their palms, heads down, nothing to say, I just chuckled. I was like, good for all of you, because you deserve some type of humbling. Even though there's no humbling a Yankee fan. Yankee Stadium could burn down in a fire and they still have nothing to be, they would still be as braggadocious as ever. But when Tyrone Taylor hit that home run, all I did was just look around, and I just couldn't help but to smile. Because that was the gut punch that put the bully down for the count. Now, I'm saying all of this, and I'm not saying that this is every Yankee fan. I know that the contingent I saw at Citi Field and what I see online through Instagram and TikTok and the way these guys, I know that doesn't represent everybody, but it represents a good 98% of their fan base. They love to talk. They love to move goalposts. It's crazy. I have friends that are Yankee fans, taunted me, sent me text messages. Hey, Siri, what's the score in the Subway Series game? Talking all this crap. But the minute the Mets took the lead and won the game, now these same people don't want to talk. Or if they do talk, the Mets can have this. They're going to need it more. Mets are not going to see October. And we've got 27 rings. Why can't we talk about now? What does 27 rings have to do with what happened this weekend? It has nothing to do with what happened this weekend. And that's what Yankee fans like to do. Their MO is to disrespect and deflect. Disrespect and deflect. They can't stand the facts. And when they're proven wrong or your team beats theirs, they always go back to the same tried and true argument, like they're curators in a museum or they're the host of a show on the History Channel. Well, we've got 27 rings. But they'll never talk about what just happened. I'm pretty sure some of them refuse to talk about the 24 World Series because it wasn't a bright moment for them. The Mets have won every Subway Series at Citi Field since 2019. So that's 2019, 2020, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, and now 26. So 8 straight seasons, the Yankees have gone to Citi Field and lost the Subway Series. But they don't want to talk about that either. But they'll tell you about their 27 rings. I'm going to end this segment in this saying these last few words. Yankee fans, you can take Aaron Judge and his jawline. You can take the 27 rings and the corpse of Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, Thurman Munson, and we could find Derek Jeter and pay him a fee to join them. And you could take all that Yankee history that so many of you know nothing about, and you can all shove it up your ass. And that's all I got to say about the Yankee fans and their obnoxious, classless demeanor. Read some comments before we get out of here, or before I look forward to the Mets schedule. I got a lot of comments here. A lot of comments here. So, Drew Learn says, Yankees fans, I'll never understand them. I never will either. Ray says, ex-Yankees beating the Yanks. By the way, first time here. Hey, Ray, glad to have you here. Hopefully you subscribed. I hope you like the program. We go live every few days. We've got plenty of content on the YouTube. Ray also says, agreed, Alfred. Yankee Goomba crew are the bona fide deplorables. You know it. You have to laugh at their BS. I do. Love how Soto lives rent-free in their heads. And he'll live rent-free in the heads of Yankee fans for the rest of his life. The hate on Soto not wanting to marry the one-night stand. I mean, hey, you know how it goes. You bring her in, you do what you got to do. You give her bus fare to get home or call her an Uber, and you don't speak to her again, and they hate you after. G Money Stack says, I'm okay with the Mets taking 2 out of 3 from the Yankees. Tyrone Taylor home run, AJ Ewing, a.k.a. The Flash, with a sack bunt, Benj with the second walk-off. At least the Mets got 20 wins. Yes, they do. Ray says, I'm so on point. G Money Stack says, Clay Holmes fractured tibia on the 10-day IL. The fibula is one of the 2 long bones in the lower leg lateral bone that provides structural support and muscle attachment. Thank you for that, G Money. He says, ankle stability without bearing significant weight. Drew says, the Yankees look at their old glory knowing they have no future team because they're junk. Open your eyes. 3 good home run hitters that can't play defense isn't going to win you a World Series. Drew, we saw that in 2024. We saw when they got to the big game. Drew also says he found a new Yankees nickname, the Bronx Boomers, because they all look at the old past. Listen, you're just spitting facts right now. G Money Stacks wants to know, is there a difference between analytics and StatCast based on baseball as far as the numbers? StatCast will tell you things in real time, like how far a home run was hit, exit velocity, but StatCast is based on analytics anyway. Ray says Satchel Paige. No, Satchel Paige did play in the majors. Satchel Paige actually won a World Series with the Cleveland Indians in his rookie season in 1947, the same year that Jackie Robinson integrated. Satchel Paige was signed in the middle of the year. Actually, I believe 1947. Let's see, Satchel Paige. I'm willing to bet that I'm right. Satchel Paige. What year did he win the World Series? That's a good comment, right? But he did play in the majors. Satchel Paige, yes, World Series champion 1948. So the next year, he made his major league debut July 9, 1948, 1 year after the color barrier was broken. Cleveland Indians won the World Series that year, and he did pitch in that World Series. I believe in that World Series. Let's see. In that World Series, Um, Trying to pull it up, even though this is not Mets related. In the 1948 World Series, Satchel Paige made one appearance. He pitched 2/3 of an inning in Game 5. He gave up a sac fly to Warren Spahn, another pitcher. Got called for a balk, and he got Tommy Holmes to ground out. Indians won the series in 6 games. So he does have a ring. He did play in the majors. But yeah, so Satchel Paige did in fact play against the Yankees. He was in the American League during that time period. He said, I have to mention Satchel. Yeah, Satchel played in the majors. That's why I didn't. G Money Stack says, sounds like the Yankees couldn't handle the truth. Might as well get out the phone booth. Absolutely. G Money Stack says, facts, tell him, Alfred. I greatly appreciate that. Raul, shout out to Raul, says, let's go Mets World Champs 2026 from your lips to God's ears. Ray says, Alfred, preach. Yes, the Mickey Mouse League, the American League. Drew says he's viewed as just a little Mets fan. If he ever goes to the Subway Series, he'd rather go to the Bronx so he could talk some crap in their hometown. But Drew, to be honest with you, you don't want to go to Yankee Stadium. That stadium is a dump, bro. I wouldn't advise it. Come to Citi Field, be around your fellow Met fans, have a good time. You don't want to go to Yankee Stadium. Let's see who else we got here. G Money Stacks again. Seems to me the Yankees have a lot of learning to do, especially with the washed up players worse than Tommy Pham. And finally, G Money Stack says, now that Clay Holmes is injured, will Jack Wenninger be the next player to be in the majors? Well, we talked about that earlier before you joined the stream, G Money Stacks. Just to reiterate, they called up Joey Gerber, so they replaced Holmes with a bullpen arm, but I am calling for Wenninger to be brought up. I made a video last week advocating for Wenninger. And Drew Learn says, yeah, I saw Severino throw a complete game shutout versus the Marlins in 2024. So, Drew, you've been to Yankee Stadium, but they played the Marlins, so you probably didn't get to see as a disgusting side of the Yankees that I did. But I appreciate everybody for joining us. This is the longest Metropolitan Report we've ever done. If you're new here, make sure you hit that subscribe, Metropolitan Report podcast. We definitely... Before we get out of here, got to go over the Mets schedule. Just reminding everybody to, okay. Drew went to Citi, so he saw Severino when he was with us. Sorry, Drew. So before we get out of here, going to look at the Mets' upcoming schedule. Before we get out of here, last thing we always do on the program on this record-breaking edition of the Metropolitan Report, as we're nearing 2 hours. We've never had a 2-hour Metropolitan Report before. Definitely want to get out of here soon, but the Mets open up let's see the schedule. Yeah, the Mets open up a 4-game series against the Nationals tomorrow. Game 1, start time 6:45 p.m. They play the Nationals tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday before going to Miami for a Friday, Saturday, Sunday series before coming home Monday, May 25th, Memorial Day. So you got to listen. The Mets got to take advantage of the schedule. The Mets, they play 4 games in Washington. If they could at least split that, that would be fine. Then they play the Marlins, then the Reds, then the Marlins again before going to Seattle. So the next 4 series, Nats, Marlins, Reds, Marlins. The Marlins started off the season hot. They've cooled down. The Nats are 1 game under 500. They're beatable. And then the Reds, they started off hot as well, and they've cooled off really, really cooled off in the last couple of weeks. So all winnable series for the Mets. If the Mets keep winning series, they'll chop away and possibly by the end of these 4 series be at 500 or better, depending on how things go. I want to look at the Mets lineup real quick. The pitching matchups for tomorrow. Again, Mets in Washington, 6:45 p.m. start time. The Mets sending out Christian Scott, 0-0, 3.45 ERA. Going up against Jake Irvin, 1-4, 5.91 ERA. Nolan McLean going to pitch on Tuesday, 2-2, 2.92 ERA. Up against Foster Griffin, who surprisingly has good numbers in Washington, 4-2, 3.53 ERA. Probably a bullpen game. Um, Probably a bullpen game on Wednesday up against Zach Littell, 2-4 with a 6.10 ERA. And then Mets have no starter Thursday up against Cade Cavalli, 2-2, 4.05 ERA. No other pitching matchups confirmed beyond that because of the start of a new series. But I personally think the Mets are going to take that Washington series 3-1. Either way, we've been on the air for 2 hours, folks. I've said a lot. I've also said all that there is to say. The only thing left to say is, let's go Mets. Be safe. Be kind to one another. Don't let the obnoxious asshole Yankee fans bother you. And stay blessed. Good night.